Hey, welcome back to Imperfect Action. This is episode 713. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever struggled to get your brand or your website in front of the right people? And maybe, like most of my listeners of this show, you probably don't have a budget or much of a budget to invest in paid advertising to get your brand in front of the right people. Today's guest is a student of mine and also an SEO and meta ads expert, Nicki Sciberras, and she is here to talk to you all about building out your traffic strategy to get your brand in front of the right people, get your website in front of the right people so that they can get there and then convert, take that next action that you want them to take. And we're talking all about SEO today because SEO is one of the untapped free ways to get these right people onto your website. And it's one of these things that I've noticed so many online business owners don't put the time and energy into simply because it seems really techy. It seems really scary. It seems really time consuming, but it's not. And today we're going to talk about where you can get started with SEO, some of the big mistakes to avoid, and where it all fits in with your broader marketing plan and your traffic strategy for your business. So let's jump into the chat with Nicki. Hey, Nicki, welcome back to Imperfect Action for the second time. The last time you were in the hot seat and we were talking about some of the challenges that you were facing in your business. And I'm really excited to have you back again as an expert on SEO because, you've been one of my students for a long time and you've been in the SEO world and the website traffic world for a really long time. So I'm very excited to have you here.
Hello, everyone. And thank you, Steph. I'm so excited to be here. I am actually very honored that you've had me on as an expert. So, I've learned so much from you and I'm your number one cheerleader. So this is very exciting.
So I'm going to kick it off with a pretty big question because I know one of the things you live and die by is traffic strategy, having a strategy to get people onto your website. Why is this important for somebody who is an online business owner?
Yeah, so this is such an important area and there's so many businesses and entrepreneurs, et cetera, that don't actually touch on this. But essentially, in order to get leads, to get leads, sales, revenue, you need to be getting traffic to your website because if there's no visibility and you're not getting any visitors, then you're never going to be able to sell anything because there's nobody to sell anything to. So in general, we say there's a conversion rate of about 2%, which means that for every 100 people that come to your website, 2 people will take the action that you want. So in saying all that, if you are only getting, say, 2 sales per 100 people that come to visit, you're going to need to get a lot of traffic to actually hit those revenue goals. But you need to be looking at your numbers in order to be able to, have a proper marketing strategy. Otherwise, you're just going in blind and you won't be able to hit those revenue goals that you want.
So what does a traffic strategy actually look like from a practical sense? Like, obviously we can run paid ads, but how does it all fit together?
Yeah. So essentially the way that we do it is you look at your revenue goal for the year and maybe, or whatever you want to earn, and then you work backwards. So you would say, and we have a calculator that I could share with you that actually does all this for you.
Yeah.
So basically it'll say, what's your conversion rate on your website? What's the average spend that people do, whether it's this service or for a program. And then that it'll spit out how much traffic you need to get. And then what we get our students to do and our clients is actually work out what kind of traffic they're currently getting already by using Google Analytics or the analytics in the back end of their website, and then see what the difference is. And we like to look at where the traffic is coming from mostly now. So whether it be from search engine optimization, from social media, from paid advertising, and then we work out where you're getting the best bang for your buck. So where are you spending the least amount of time or money, but you're actually getting the best results? And then you should start putting more time and effort into those areas. But generally we find it's the same kind of areas and it's different to what people think it is. So yeah, generally we find a lot of people thinking it's social media that's driving the traffic. But if you actually look in your analytics, you could be getting like your insights on Instagram, for example, you could be getting like 2 people a month visiting your website from Instagram. And if you need 100 people to make a sale, it's going to take you months and months to get sales or, based on a traffic strategy from there. That's why you need to look at other strategies to boost that.
It's so funny you say that because whenever I look at our analytics, Instagram is such a small fraction of website traffic. And that's from, I've got like 38,000 followers or something ridiculous. And that just doesn't drive the traffic onto the site. So for somebody who doesn't then have the budget for paid ads, you mentioned search engine optimization, SEO. I know it's something that like most business owners have a vague idea of what it is, but it's kind of terrifying. It's a little bit daunting. It's a little bit techy. Would you mind explaining, like in the simplest way possible, what is SEO and who should be doing it?
Yeah, so SEO is all, or search engine optimization is all the actions that you take on and off your website in order to rank in first place in Google. Now, just as a bit of a, like a little fun fact, it said that SEO drives 1,000% more traffic than social media, which is huge. And 91% of pages don't even have an organic traffic strategy. So essentially there are actions that you can take on your website and off your website. So on your website might be things like making sure your website is set up right. So making sure that each page is loading under 3 seconds, having some keywords on your website. And then off your website would be getting people to link to your website. So through directories or guest posting, things like that. Yeah. So essentially having a search engine optimization strategy is going to get people searching Google. If you get first place coming to your website, or even if you're in the top, whatever 3, you've got the highest chance of getting traffic to your website. And that's going to increase how much traffic's coming to your website, which is basically going to help you get more leads and sales. Because if you want to get like 2 sales or 2 leads, you need at least 100 people coming to your website. So you need to make sure you're increasing that traffic, and search engine optimization is a free way to do that. And it's super simple and it's low maintenance as well compared to social media.
And I know, like, certainly one of the things I've found that's been really helpful with it is you're attracting the people who are literally searching for what your page is offering them. Like that is so powerful. Social media, you're kind of getting in front of them with what you think they want. Whereas they are literally searching for it, and you can get them at that point where they are searching. Now, where does somebody even begin with all of the SEO things? You mentioned on page, you mentioned off page. I like having dabbled in it a little bit. I know there's just so many different pieces to it, but for somebody who's just starting out, what is the very first thing you'd say for them to do?
Yeah, so it is one of those topics that you could hunt and peck around all around Google, and there's a lot of different elements that you might feel like you need to pull together. But I mean, it's not as difficult as people think. I would generally go to, say, an experts page to have a look at, what they're telling you to do. That's probably going to be the easiest thing, whether it be someone like Neil Patel. I have a whole bunch of blogs on my website that take you through the basics of what it includes as well. But just to give you a bit of a breakdown, it does include 3 main areas, which is your website setup, which is classified as technical SEO. I don't like to use that term because it sounds more scary than it is.
Terrifying.
And then you've got your keywords and your keyword optimization. So finding those keywords that people are searching to find products or services like yours or programs, and adding them to all the right places on your website. And then there is your backlink. So you've got those 3 main areas. But I would generally start by looking at experts pages, because that's going to be the simplest way, or going to YouTube. But again, if you go to experts, I'll also have programs. Like I have an SEO program that covers it off and has it all put together easily for you.
That's pretty crucial as well. Like having something you can follow step by step, because even within each of those 3 elements, there's so many different steps and so many different things you can do. Is there like one particular thing that you've found moves the needle most? Like, is it putting all the time into keyword research, or is it optimizing the website? Like, what is it that's made the biggest difference in your experience?
Yeah, so I think the biggest and most underrated thing is probably backlinks. So people will set their website up right and add the keyword, but then they won't get backlinks. And backlinks is essentially links from other websites to yours. And your website is ranked using this MOS score, which is called domain authority, and it's a number between 0 and 100. And it gives you an indication of how many backlinks you have to your website and the quality. And it's a trust factor for Google. So the higher that number, the more likely, if all things are equal, you are to be pushed above a competitor's site. So you want to get that number up. So it's when you actually start to get backlinks to your website that you really see it boost. So you can have the technical website set up, part of your website set up, which is foundational, and you can add the keywords, but it isn't until you add the backlinks that it really starts to like boost your position in the search engines.
And how does somebody go about getting those backlinks?
So there's numerous different ways that you can do that. My little favorite trick to do it is to give people testimonials and then they can link back to your website. That's just a simple, I guess, it's not super high authority way to do it, but that's probably my favorite, like, quick hack to do it. You can join directories. You can ask affiliates to add you on their website, or suppliers, or, if you partner with other businesses. So complementary businesses, they're all like simple ways that you can build your domain authority. But then you've got the media, which is probably the one that's going to give you the highest domain authority. And I know not everybody has a PR budget. So some little hacks that you can do are you can join websites like Haro, Haro, or SourceBottle. And those websites will basically send you pictures every day that the media is looking for comments on. And you can just respond with a comment. And if they choose yours, you immediately get put in the actual article, and I'll link back to your website. So I've found that like a super simple way to get links. Another one is there's like listicle link building, which is where you look for the top 10 or something in your industry. So it might be the top 10 best programs for teaching this, for example. And you could see, what the competitors are in the article for your industry. And then you could reach out to the editor and ask if they could include your particular program or something if you have one, because then at least you're not only getting a backlink, but you're also being mentioned in an article that directly relates to, what your audience would be searching.
I love that one. One that's actually worked really well for us is podcast interviews. So every time I've been a guest on a podcast, usually they'll put the show notes up on their website and they'll link to your website or whatever links you give them on the show notes. Yeah. But that kind of falls under the media category. And I think a lot of people don't do it because it kind of goes into the too hard basket. But it's so beneficial because you're getting in front of those podcast listeners, but you're also getting that backlink, which, depending on the show, that can be pretty powerful.
Yeah, I have to say, actually, that's probably my favorite way, because you're getting both. You're getting the exposure to their audience. You're getting in their ears so that you're building that know, like, and trust factor and rapport with them because they're hearing them speak. But then you're also getting the backlink too. So you're getting a lot more bang for your buck with podcasting. And I mean, guest blogging is another way you can do that. It's not necessarily as strong in terms of like getting in their ears and things like that, because they can hear you and they can, you're building up that know, like, and trust factor more. But guest blogging is another great way to be able to do that too.
Now, I know when somebody's just kind of starting out in their business, or their first kind of 1 to 3 years, there are just so many different things that they could be doing, that they should be doing. Everyone's telling them, do this strategy, do reels, be on TikTok, do YouTube, do a podcast. Like, there's so many different things that they can spend their time and energy on. What is it about SEO that you want to tell somebody who's in that situation they need to prioritize this over and above all of the other shiny things that are distracting them? And I guess at what stage is it most suitable for? Is it suitable for people who are starting, people who've been doing business for a while? Where does this fit in for everybody?
Yeah, so search engine optimization is something that you can do at any stage of your business, but I think it's best to do it when you're first making your website, because then you can, include all the elements that you need as you're doing the build. But in saying that, even if you've done the build, it's not too difficult to go back and just audit your website and check everything and start adding it in. So I would say it's best to do it from when you first start. And, when you first start, you might not have a budget to do marketing. So, most people start off with a social media page, and don't get me wrong, it's great to have an online presence, but just don't spend stacks of time there, because you're not going to necessarily, without paid advertising, see that needle moving very fast. And you shouldn't really be starting paid advertising anyway, until you've got a proven system, that sales system that works, like your website's actually converting. So I would say get set up on that from day one, because, you're bringing qualified traffic to your website. It's a free way to market your business. People are searching for the exact keywords that describe what you offer or sell. So it's pretty much a no-brainer. And not only that, it's got longevity, and all the actions you take compound. So essentially, if you set up your SEO today, for you, your SEO is only going to get better and bring you more traffic as time goes on. So it makes more sense to do it now, so it keeps giving you traffic for years to come. Unlike something like social media, where, the post basically expires after 24 hours. And even within the first hour, if you're not getting any engagement, it pretty much dies off. And you could spend an hour doing that a day, creating something in Canva, writing a caption, editing it, engaging, whatever. or you could spend an hour writing a blog and getting backlinks to it, or getting, or finding some backlinks. And the SEO strategy is going to bring you so much more traffic, which will then lead to, lead sales and revenue in the long run.
How long does it take, or how long can somebody expect to wait before they start to see kind of a return on the time that they're putting into SEO? Because, it's really easy to want to prioritize the stuff that gives you the shiny, quick wins, the social media where you're getting those likes and those comments so quickly. So how long should somebody stick with this before they can expect to see those results?
So sometimes I've seen backlinks and my position start to move within a month, but I usually say at least 3 to 6 months. And the thing is, a lot of people are doing the technical setup and the keywords, but they're not doing the backlinks. So as soon as you start implementing the backlinks and you give it a month or 2 months for Google to start crawling those pages and kicking in, that's when you're going to start seeing results. Before that, before you add those backlinks, you're probably not going to see a lot of traction. It's the backlinks that are really going to drive you up. And I'm going to say about 3 to 6 months minimum.
And I guess it's not all just a long-term wait, because if you're doing things like podcast interviews and media to build those backlinks anyway, then you're going to be driving traffic from that in the meantime. So it's not like it's all just you have to wait 6 months before you get any kind of result.
Yeah, exactly. So, you're getting, as you said, you're getting exposure on all of those sites that you've been posted on anyway, and the podcast as well. But yeah. And then it's kind of like you get a double bonus out of it, really, because you're getting the exposure and you're getting the link and you're getting boosted in Google. So
yeah, and honestly, I think being a guest on a podcast, it's much more evergreen content than social media. Like you said, social media content, it's in somebody's feed for a week, if that, and then it's gone. And a podcast episode, somebody who might come across a new podcast, they're going back and they're going to go and binge all of the previous episodes. So then they'll see your content anyway.
That's 100% true. And I know from first-hand experience of being on podcasts, I've got messages 6 to 12 months after being on the podcast and, asking questions about things that I've spoken about. So yeah, 100% right there. It's amazing platform to be on.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about, some of the misconceptions, like how techie SEO is and all of that. But what have you noticed in your work with, small business and online business owners? What are the big misconceptions that they have that are stopping them from getting started with SEO in the first place?
I think one of the main ones is that people think it costs money. So they think that, it's not free to do and it's related to Google Ads. So Google Ads is a completely separate beast. So that's, yeah. And I think the second one is that it's going to be super time consuming. So people think, it's going to take me hours and hours and hours to do. It's not true. You think, social media is quick, for example. It's only going to take me 5 minutes. But sometimes I sit there and create a post and an hour's gone by and I'm still doing it. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm not even going to get any return on this. Whereas if you put an hour into doing SEO, you're going to see a lot more ROI for that time invested, and it's free to do. And I think, you touched on the main one. The main one is that it's super techie and hard. So, it's not techie. It is a little bit techie, but if you have the right person to guide you or you're following the right tutorial and you know the exact things to look for, it's just ticking certain things off and making sure that you're ticking those boxes. It's not as scary as people think. And the thing is, now there is so much powerful software out there like SEMrush, and it does 90% of the work for you. So, and most of these websites have trials where you can check out the software and get what you need off it.
So SEMrush, you said, SEMrush.
Yes,
okay.
That's probably my favorite one.
Oh, cool. Okay. So when somebody's getting started with SEO, how much time would you recommend that they put in at the start? How many hours a week or a month? What's the kind of time commitment that they should put in to expect to see some kind of result?
Yeah. So when people do our program, we say to get everything done. So if you're doing it in a program, you could do most of the bulk of the artwork, say in maybe 20 to 30 hours. And then after that, you could probably do an hour a week, and you don't even need to do an hour a week. It's just if you want to keep getting growing your keywords and getting to position 1. But it's just, I find that most of the work you could get done at the start, and then you could review it again in say 6 months time if you want to go after bigger and more high volume keywords. So when I say high volume, I mean ones that people are searching more, because you'll start off with lower volume keywords because you won't be able to compete with the bigger ones until you've got more backlinks. So yeah, I would say about 20 to 30 hours, but it sounds like a lot, but it's not. If you just knuckle down, spend 3 to 5 hours a week getting it done, like getting each section done for 5 or 6 weeks. And then, an hour a week after that.
So that's like, 20 or 30 hours is like 20 or 30 Instagram posts.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way.
Like 10 reels if it takes you 3 hours to edit a reel.
Yeah, exactly. It takes about that long, doesn't it?
So like when it comes to actually doing the SEO, like if somebody's kind of on the fence, say like, oh, I might have the budget to get somebody to do it for me, but it might be a bit of a stretch versus learning how to do it themselves. What are the pros and cons of DIY versus hiring an agency or an SEO, I don't know, consultant professional to do it for you? Like pros and cons of the two approaches.
Yeah. So, I mean, doing it yourself, obviously you're going to save money, but it's going to cost you time. That's the difference. So I would say it's one of the main benefits is that you're learning a skill that's probably not going to go out of fashion for a long time. People say, is SEO dead? It's not really, because there's always going to be things that people are researching and searching. So it may just evolve to look a little bit differently. So I think it's a skill that you would benefit from for years to come. So that would be the main thing. And yeah, it's a skill where you can bring so much traffic to your website. So it's completely worth having. And yeah, negative is probably that, you're going to have to spend time doing it. But a positive of getting an agency to do it is obviously that they are the experts, so they might be able to get quicker results for you. But I guess it just depends where you want to spend your budget. Like, do you want to, you could do the SEO yourself. And if you're writing your own blogs and doing your own content for your website, it makes sense that you would probably just have that skill to go with it,
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't really take that much management. So you don't really need to go and pay an agency to go and manage it. I find that there's a lot of agencies, and this is like not a negative, I don't want to say anything negative, but there's a lot of people out there that have come to me saying that they've tried to use agencies and haven't got the results that they've wanted. So I like to even myself have a bit of a base knowledge of services that I outsource before, just so you know that they're kind of on the right track.
Yeah, so that you know what to look for. And I've heard the same thing. I think, it's so interesting actually. Like probably the number one type of agency I've heard people complain about is SEO agencies. Like I've heard so many people getting burnt by these big agencies that promise the world and deliver nothing. It wasn't one of the questions I was planning to ask you, but I'd be so curious to know, like, do you have any guidelines for somebody who is looking at hiring an agency? Like, what should they look for and what are some red flags?
Yeah. So, and this actually probably is maybe a negative that I should have touched on, but essentially I would be asking them, how many hours per week they plan on spending on your SEO based on what the cost is. If they're going to be giving you some kind of reporting at the end of it so that you can start to track where you've come from to where you're going, because and then I would be asking them, the three, what areas they're covering off. So you want to make sure that they're covering off first the foundational area of your website, which is, the technical setup. That covers off things like your website speed, if your website's getting crawled, and if it's mobile responsive. They're the three main areas. You want to make sure that they're also adding new keywords that actually relate, because I've seen recently someone come to me and they were getting keywords added to their website that were not really accurate or specific to what they were selling. So it was like pretty surprising, because I had worked with this client in the past, but I wasn't offering that service anymore. And they basically were unraveling all the work that we'd done. And they'd grown their traffic from 0 to 1,000 in 3 months. So, and then, it was unraveling everything. So,
wow.
And then there's also some other things. You want to ask what their tactics are for things like, say, getting backlinks. A lot of people are using dodgy, like phishing, like sites and stuff where they just get one website that points to your website 1,000 times, or uses one website to point to another. So you want to ask, how they're going to achieve what they're doing, because it could be through what they call black hat practices, which are dodgy practices. So, yeah.
We don't want that.
No,
we definitely don't want that.
No, because then you could get ranked down and then penalized by Google, and then it just ruins everything you've done.
Oh, wow. Okay. So we want to avoid that. So if somebody's then going down the DIY path, what are some of the biggest tripping hazards that you notice with people who try to DIY their own SEO? Maybe they go about it without following a course or without like having some kind of framework. Where do they usually get unstuck?
the biggest area that people get stuck is with keywords, and most people think SEO is just keywords. So everyone focuses their time on adding keywords and they think they've done their SEO. That's not it. But essentially what people do is they go after like a head keyword or something that's only like a single or two word phrase. And when you add like a single keyword, like for example, it might just be, just trying to think of something.
Marketing podcasts.
Marketing. Yeah, there you go. Marketing podcast. First of all, it's not necessarily specific to what you do. So for example, if you were the example, you might be better off going to something like launch strategy podcast or something like that was much more specific to what you do. But also if you went for marketing podcast, you're going to be competing with people like Jenna Kutcher, Amy Porterfield, all of those big people. And if they've been around for a lot longer and they have a huge team and budget that they're, allocating to SEO, you're never going to be able to compete with those people. And it's not necessarily specific to what people are searching. So if they search marketing podcast and you came up, they might be looking for someone that talks about Facebook ads or something completely different. And then they could just bounce out anyway. So you want the keywords to be, when you first start out, to be, say, the 3 or 4 words in the keyword phrase for each keyword phrase that you add to a page on your website. Otherwise, you're probably never going to win the traffic. I would say that's probably the biggest one. There's the main issue on a lot of websites is the images are too large. A lot of people don't use some kind of tool or app or whatever to smoosh their images smaller, or they don't upload them at the right size. So then it just slows their website down completely. So I'd probably say they're the two main things. Also, people don't, sometimes people's websites aren't even getting crawled. So they could have been there for years and there's so many pages are getting blocked because they haven't set up their search engine, their search console. So Google has Google Search Console and Google Analytics. They're both free software. Google Search Console helps you control your search engine optimization and how you appear in Google. So it's worth setting up. And then Google Analytics helps you check what people are actually doing on your website, how you're getting traffic, and what the kind of actions and activity that they're taking.
Yeah. So definitely, as a starting point, definitely set up both of those. You mentioned, the site getting crawled. What do you mean by that?
So essentially, in order for, say, a search engine like Google to be able to send people to your website, they need to be able to index you in their library. So what they do is they have this little like bot that goes out and it crawls the World Wide Web and it goes from link to link to link. And it needs to be able to find your actual links on your website and then index it in its library so that when someone makes a search, it can find you. A lot of the time now, you might use software that's like closed source, so Squarespace and Kajabi or, websites like Shopify that will do a lot of that work for you. But if you're using open source, you might need to download some kind of plugins or apps to make sure that's happening. But you want to make sure all your pages are getting crawled. If you actually go into Search Console, it tells you what pages are being indexed and which ones aren't being indexed. And it allows you to upload your sitemap and it gives you an instruction on how to do that. And a sitemap is basically a list of all the pages that are on your website. So and it will tell you what's being crawled and what's not.
Cool. So that's a nice, easy, free thing that somebody can do that could potentially have a big difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So now obviously we're in this world of Chat-GPT, AI, all of the fun tools. How have you been using Chat-GPT with your SEO or for your clients? And what are some easy ways that somebody could start to use Chat-GPT to streamline the whole process and save themselves a little bit of time?
So I think the favorite tool that I've been sharing with everyone that they've been loving is Neil Patel's like keyword optimization AI tool. So essentially what you can do is you can put in your keyword or your keyword phrase and it'll pop out a headline with that keyword in it. It'll pop out a title tag, a meta description, first 100 words on the page. It's brilliant. So it saves you so much time. So
wow.
Yeah. And you can also do that in Chat-GPT. You can say, hey, Chat-GPT, please write me a keyword description for this keyword phrase. So you can definitely use that. But I really love Neil Patel's because it does all the areas that you need for keyword optimization. And obviously Neil Patel is a huge SEO expert. So you know that the software would be spitting it out pretty accurately to what you need. And obviously you can always tweak it for your tone of voice and yeah.
Yeah. Is there like a way, like, does Google know that this stuff's being created by ChatGPT? Can it tell, oh, you've written this blog post, for example, with ChatGPT and then penalize you as a result?
Yeah. I think at the start, it's probably okay. But I think as we're going on and more people are using it, there's going to be a lot more duplication. So because of that duplication, if there's a lot of, I guess, content that is looking identical across the web, then I think Google's going to start penalizing that, because if it's, if it's pulling all the information from the same areas and then it's spitting out the same information, then eventually it's going to start to duplicate in a lot more places and there will be penalties, I believe.
And I guess also from from a reader perspective as well, like if you're searching for something, you're searching for a particular article, let's say, and then you get onto that article and a lot of the time it's so obvious when it's been written by AI, or the person hasn't given the AI enough context or enough of a prompt to write an actual well thought out article, then that's not going to answer the question that they're searching for anyway. So they're not going to stick around and they're not going to take the action that you want them to take on your website. So it's like you might get that traffic, but then there's really no point to it.
Exactly. And then you want the content as well to not only be relevant to the term that they're searching, but you also want it to be like human and engaging. And that's where another area that Google could rank you down. Like if the content is not engaging and it doesn't, so that's going to mark you down, but it's also going to mark you down if they're searching a keyword, they come in and they're not getting the answer because they're going to bounce out. So Google's going to see it like that repetitive action of people bouncing out and then start sending them to your competitor instead. So all things to consider when using it.
Oh, that's so interesting. So the other thing that you teach is paid ads, paid traffic. So we kind of looked at where that fits in, but at what point does somebody think, okay, great, my organic strategy, my SEO strategy is working really well. Maybe I should turn some paid Google ads or Facebook ads on and amplify all of that.
Yeah, so we usually recommend that your website is converting at a level of 2%. So that's for every 100 people that are coming to visit, at least 2% are turning into bookings or program sales or something similar. So you want to get at least 1,000 people, visiting through the doors of your website before you kind of making that call on the 2% as well. Like you don't want to say, oh, I've got 2% conversion rate, but 2 people have come to visit. I mean, that would be a really good conversion rate if that was happening. But it's probably not enough traffic to be able to make sure that there's not enough data coming through to make sure it's accurate. So I would say when your conversion rate's sitting at a healthy 2% and it's been consistently like that for a few months, because otherwise what you're going to do is you're going to pour in all this money into a leaky bucket. And it basically is just going to amplify what's already happening on your website. So if you're going to pour money into your website and into advertising, you want to make sure that you're already converting and people are happy with what you're offering and they're buying or booking. So that's what my recommendation would be. If you have a relatively okay following on Instagram and you just want to try and promote a lead magnet, I would say it's okay to run ads before you're at that point, because it's a freebie and people are getting something for free. So they might be okay to download it. It's more so with the sales and things like that you might have an issue with pouring too much money in there. So yeah, just to kind of summarize that, in case that was confusing, it's okay to start a little bit earlier if you want to promote a lead magnet. Just make sure it's directly in line with what you're offering and it's a lead magnet or a freebie that your audience actually want. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting money on that thing.
Oh, absolutely. A lead magnet that's going to convert is the way that I put it. Like it's nice having a really shiny one that everyone wants to download, but if it's not attracting the right people and it's not moving them closer to buying, then it's such a waste of money. Yeah. And I think that's a huge mistake that a lot of people make.
I think I literally have definitely been there with a lead magnet in the past. And you sent out the morning booster thing. I've had a complete
the daily biz boosters.
The daily biz booster. I love those. Like every morning I wake up and I read it straight away. You sent out one 2 days ago that said that exact thing. Like there's, it's better to get one that's maybe getting downloaded a little less, but directly is in line with what your audience wants and you're likely to sell more. Because I was actually having that exact thought 3 or 4 days ago. And then you sent that. I was like, oh, she's reading my mail.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Isn't that funny? Now, Nicki, I have one question I ask all of my interview guests at the end of each episode. And that is, when was the last time you took imperfect action and what happened as a result?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I would say personally, even within my own business, would be recently. I just relaunched I did my new branding, and basically I had to do a whole bunch of things that I'd never done, and ended up okay. So, I DIY'd a whole bunch of things, and I was like, I had people helping me, and it didn't end up going to plan. So, yeah, I ended up having to do a few things myself, but I think I've heard some good feedbacks.
Yay. And the rebrand has been a long time coming. So it's really exciting to see that it's finally out there in the world.
Thank you. Yeah, it is
Right.
very exciting. I'm happy to have it launched and everyone to see it, but I'm also happy to be moving on to the next project.
Oh, I can imagine. Now, for anyone who wants to find out more about you, get that checklist you mentioned earlier, and find out more about your course on SEO, where can they find all of these things?
Yes, so you can find me at the digitalexchange.co, and the freebie is the digitalexchange.co/traffic. And then if you head to the Learn tab in the menu navigation on my website, you'll see the SEO program sits under there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nicki. This has been really eye-opening. And I think anyone who's trying to get more people onto their website and hasn't already tried doing SEO, I think you've given them some great places to start. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today.
You're welcome, and thanks for having me.